The winter warming plan drawn up by Fargo City Commissioners went into effect today. It's part of a proactive approach to prevent injuries and deaths this winter season. The warming center is open inside of the Fargo Public Health Building on 25th Street South. Commissioners say they expect to have up to 60 guests who will have to check in and out. The center does not include beds or cots, but has chairs for people to sit down in and warm up. Public health leaders spoke today on the challenges of finding a long-term solution for homelessness in our community.
For the duration of this season, we will have winter warming operations in this location, but we can't necessarily speak to what things will look like next year. Hopefully we'll have made some improvements in housing those in our community who need it.
Officials add a shuttle service to the center will also be provided. They go on to say that the space is crucial during winter months since most local shelters are full.